can't find nothing on the radio.
You ready, Steve?
Welcome to Songology. He's Bruce.
He's Richard.
And this is another episode from our Song of the Day archives.
Enjoy.
Welcome back, Bruce. We're doing the history of rock and roll. What do we have today?
Today, we're going to start off with a question. We're going to put you on the spot, you morning show radio host guy, you. So, British music charts. Who has the most hit singles on British music charts ever?
Since you're asking the question that way, my guess would be it's not the Beatles.
It's not the Beatles.
So who is it?
Beatles, at least according to the internet, the Beatles don't even make the top three.
So who do we have?
Number one would be the king himself, Elvis Presley. Now, care to take a guess at number two?
Not the foggiest.
Cliff Richard. Remember Cliff Richard?
Yes.
Oh, Cliff Richard in the late 50s and early 60s was an even bigger deal than you remember him knocking around in the late 70s and early 80s. And Cliff Richard is still kicking around today. But we're not even talking about Cliff Richard. What we're interested in today, because we're still talking about electric guitar bands and the sounds that created electric guitar music as we know it today, we're talking about the number three, the third most successful British charted hit singles act behind only Elvis and Cliff Richard are the Shadows. And
which is drawing a big blank.
Yes, but not many people remember the Shadows. The Shadows started out actually as Cliff Richard's backing band. When Cliff was a sort of a teen idol and had a big hit single, wanted to do a lot of touring and different things, he needed a backing band. So he put together a band from a number of the best musicians he could find from different groups. The core of the Shadows were three fellows by the name of Hank Marvin, Bruce Welch, and Brian Bannon, and they have been the core of the Shadows throughout their history. Then after a while, Cliff Richard carried on and did his own thing as a solo act, but the Shadows continued and recorded their own music in various ways over quite a number of years, into the late 60s. They broke up for a while, reformed again, and recorded into the 70s and 80s, and are even kicking around on oldies shows today. The song that we're going to hear is a song called Apache. It was a huge hit for the Shadows in the early 1960s. Apache was actually written by a fellow by the name of Jerry Lorden, not one of the Shadows, but he had come up with the tune. He'd seen a 1954 American Western movie called Apache and decided he wanted something that sounded like that and proceeded to write himself the song that we're going to hear. Now, it didn't really do very much, but in mid-1960s, the Shadows were on tour with Jerry Lorden as a support act. And one day, while they were sitting around waiting for the show, everybody was setting up and so forth, Lorden played them the song Apache on the ukulele, and they fell in love with it. So they asked him if they could record it. He agreed, and off they went to the studio to record it. When they got to the studio, Hank Marvin had got an Italian-built guitar echo chamber that the original owner really did not like. And so Hank decided, well, I'll play around with this, and used it to develop a very, very distinctive echoey sound, using it in his infamous red Fender Stratocaster, which is sort of his signature guitar. On this track, actually, Bruce Welch borrowed Cliff Richard's guitar, and Cliff Richard played a drum at the beginning and at the end to provide the atmosphere that was supposed to evoke Native American music. This was a big hit for the Shadows, and as I say, they went on to a very, very successful career. In terms of their influences, or rather people that they influenced, the hugely influential group Eric Clapton, Ritchie Blackmore of Deep Purple, David Gilmour of Pink Floyd, Tony Iommi of Black Sabbath, again Mark Knopfler of Dire Straits, and Canadian boys Neil Young and Randy Bachman have all cited Shadows influences in their music. So let's listen to the Shadows and Apache.
Of course, I have to stop it right there while we work out the fair use rules on YouTube. Guitar Week is where Song of the Day really took off, as Bruce delved into the details of how the electric guitar moved into and changed rock and roll. I hope you enjoy Guitar Week. Bruce has many more fascinating details behind the songs, the musicians, and the instruments of rock and roll. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe. You can visit us on Facebook, and we have our website, songology.ca. Now you have the chance to listen to the full song or move on to the next episode.